He's also a senior fellow at the Hoover Institution. He now joins us. Professor, thank you so much for taking the time, as always.
Larry, it's good to join you.
Well, what's your mood like, Professor, these days, now that Professor Joe Biden is in office and is proposing, a $1.9 trillion package? What's your mood? What's your feeling?
My mood is I need to save more for my grandchildren to pay off the debt we're running up right now for not any particularly good reason.
1.9 trillion. These numbers now are just roll off the tongue, don't they?
They just roll off the tongue, and it's like we're going down to the 5 and dime store and buying a couple of bottles of water. I've never seen anything like this. Just the lack of fiscal responsibility and the lack of economic sense and the lack of justification. It's simply, hey, we get a checkbook, we're going to write some checks, and why not? The unemployment rate is currently 6%. That's lower than the average unemployment rate during the Obama administration. That's not to say that there aren't people out there hurting because of the pandemic and because of the way the pandemic has been handled in many states, but there's just simply no economic justification for writing these $2,000 checks that will go to most households in the country, and most of those households are currently not being directly impacted by COVID. There simply is just no economic reason for this type of program.
My guest is economics professor from UCLA, Lee Ohanian. Professor, when Hillary was running against Trump, I said neither one of them is saying anything at all about debt and deficit. No matter who gets in, the debt and deficit are going to grow. Obviously, Democrats are bigger spendthrifts. But my point, Professor, is both sides have blood on their hands regarding the debt and the deficit being run up.
Yes, absolutely. The idea of fiscal responsibility has disappeared from Washington, really, no matter who the party is. And now we're really doing this, with whipped cream and a cherry on top. Trump ran up $4 trillion in terms of trying to manage the pandemic, and now that the vaccine is here, and if the public sector, this is a big if, but if the public sector was able to manage its distribution efficiently, I think we would be out of the worst of this very, very soon. So, again, the idea that we need a big federal stimulus, writing a lot of checks, most of which will go to people who will simply deposit it right in the bank. And, much of the same criticism can be pointed at Trump's Paycheck Protection Program. I mean, I know many businesses that were flat out operating at full capacity that were paid millions of dollars, which did not save jobs, that did not create jobs, but they were depositing the bank accounts of businesses. The real trouble that government runs into, and again, whether it's Republican or Democrat, is a crisis comes along, and then there's an idea that you can simply just write a lot of checks, throw those, and see what sticks to the wall. And 19 out of 20 pieces of spaghetti don't stick to the wall, but nevertheless, they do run up the debt. So we are really in, I think, a very, very difficult situation, and one that's going to impact future generations substantially.
My guest again is economics professor Lee Ohanian from UCLA. Professor, one of my mentors, of course, is Thomas Sowell. And he always told me whenever there's a new scheme, ask yourself 3 questions. How much is it going to cost? Who's going to pay? And will it, in fact, achieve the objectives intended? Usually, he says, you put that 3-part analysis, almost everything falls apart.
Yeah, it really does. It really does. And I can think of no better example than this. And then we combine that with Biden's interest in raising the federal minimum wage to $15 per hour that would hit all of the United States equally. Well, I took a look at some numbers, and in Mississippi, the median wage earners' hourly wage is under $15 per hour. That's for the median person. So half of people working in Mississippi are earning less than $15 per hour. So there's another bad policy associated with that. Biden also wants to provide free college education. Well, there's no such thing as anything that's free. It simply just means that someone else is going to pay for it. And what I can tell you as a college professor for over 25 years, we have a hard enough time trying to get people through college right now with the right motivation, the right incentives. And when you make it free, it's very easy to turn your back on that without saying, hey, I'm really paying for this, I'm going to make this count. So there's a lot of dollars being spent out of Washington, and your insight as to where this is going and is it going to really help the country? You're spot on with that. We're burning a lot of dollar bills right now, and I wish more people could understand that.
Professor, 45 seconds left, and again, thank you so much for taking the time. I wanted your opinion about Janet Yellen becoming the Secretary of Treasury. How do you feel about that?
Well, among Biden's top 7 economic advisors, and I'm going to put her on that list of the top 7, of those 7, I've only heard of 2 of them. Yellen and Cecilia Rouse, who will be the chair of the Council of Economic Advisors. Yellen is really about the best person he has appointed. I have differences with her on some aspects of economic policy, but
10 seconds.
She's much better than many of the people he is listening to who don't even have professional economics training among those top 7.
Well, thank goodness he didn't appoint Maxine Waters. Professor, thank you for taking the time.
Larry, it's always a pleasure. Thank you.
God bless.